So there has been no progress in hooking up the TV, as I had explained in the previous video, sort of along this series of package from Lexmarks 567, where he sent me the component cables to hook all the crap up to this, and I said how I had to drill a hole in the wall, and I was thinking of cantilevering it out. I think that's probably a bad idea. It's probably better to just take it down, and then I can get in there, and as XJoe81X would say, that way you can work like a gentleman. And that probably is the best idea. So that's kind of sort of on hold. But I got thinking about the old computer box that hooks up via HDMI, because this oddly does not have VGA. So I figured we'd take a look at the old computer box. So here it is. The old computer box. It's an Acer. Does it have a model number on it? I don't even know. It says something. Media. It says Media Expansion Bay. And in there is a card reader, 2 USBs, and sound, you know, microphone, speaker kind of thing. It's one of these slim jobbies. So the story goes with this, it's kind of an interesting story how I ended up getting this thing. This was at Tiny Middle, and it was on clearance, I think. I don't know why it was on clearance, or what the deal was with it, or if it was actually a factory refurb. I don't know. But it was a ridiculously cheap price. So the story goes that it was my birthday or some shit, and this was back when Doo-to-Doo, unfortunately, was still part of my life. And she said, oh, well, I have an iPhone, hun, and your wife has an iPod, so we can FaceTime and, you know, text and do all these things. So I figured that a great birthday gift for you would be an iPod. So I want to give you money for it, and they sell that at Tiny Middle. And I'm saying, lady, no, absolutely not. I have no use for that whatsoever. If you do need to contact me, there is a phone on my bench, and all you got to do is call. Just pick up the phone and call. The same fucking phone that you'd want to text me and FaceTime with so the boss can get pissed at me. If I'm on the phone, at least I can make believe I'm talking to a customer. She says, well, what do you want instead? I said, well, there happens to be a computer that is the exact same price as one of those stupid iPods. So this was it. Now, I knew this wasn't a good machine. I wasn't looking for a good machine. It's got badges on it. It says that it's Windows 7 and E2 Vision AMD for graphics, dual core and AMD Radeon graphics. This was, I forget, it was something okay, this was instead of a CPU, this was an APU processor. Some AMD thing. You know, AMD processing unit, rather. I don't know. It was a bottom-of-the-barrel piece of shit, but it was much better than the old Dell that I had that was sitting there that had, at the time, Windows XP on it. And this had 7, and it was ready to go, and bingo bango, and that's how I ended up getting it. Got a DVD burner, and the card slots, like I said before. Let's spin it around. It's one of these little slim, small form factor type jobbies, which you need a power supply, you're fucked. You know, it's not, I'm not fond of that, but it is what it is. And I said, you know, it'll work for as long as it does. And this ties in with the TV, because there is the HDMI port. So that was the plan. This also happens to have PS2 keyboard and mouse. Now, in the setup I had when I used to use this, believe it or not, I used to edit my videos on this thing. This thing was fucking slow. The machine I have now is slow, but I think I had a video on that, yeah, when I got that machine up and running in comparison to this thing, and it blew this thing out of the water. But this should still be able to play some videos and shit like that, so we'll see. So we got PS2 keyboard and mouse. I'll tell a little bit more about that in a second. VGA, HDMI, 1, 2, 3, 4 USB ports, Ethernet, definitely 100, 1000. This is Acer. And your line in and speaker and microphone. And that's what you got. And a card reader and a DVD burner on the front. It's got a little fan, and inside the processor has a little fan. So I figure we'll crack this thing open. Let's readjust the camera. So the PS2 keyboard and mouse, I had a PS2 mouse, and I had a PS2 keyboard, of course, an IBM Model M. This is a dinky computer, and it doesn't know what a real keyboard is. So when I would go and turn the machine, or wake it up from sleep, basically, it would not wake up with the Model M. Just refused. Actually, I think if I recall, now that I'm thinking about it, if I plugged the Model M into the machine, it pulled too much current that this thing couldn't supply because of how dinky it is. So what I did was the little crappy keyboard that came with this thing that was USB, because they included PS2 ports, so they could have given you that. But it was a rubber dome, you know, mushy piece of junk. I used to have that on the old desk, and it had like a bottom shelf like that far off the floor, and I used to keep it there, and I'd just step on the space bar or the control key or something with my foot, and that would wake it up, and then the Model M would work. Not through PS2. I had to use a USB to PS2 adapter to make that work, and it was a clusterfuck and a half. But it was functional and worked most of the time. So that was the debacle with that. This has not been used since I set up that video editing rig that I have now. I just took this thing out of commission, and that was it. I have not turned it on since. I know at one point this had Windows 10 on it. It may still. I don't know. We're going to look into that in a bit. Once I get these screws out, we'll see how dusty it is and all that. There was shit on top of it, so there really wasn't much dust on it. It's very clean as it is. Oh, it's got specs even. It's the AX 1430G-UW30P. It's got Windows 7, Home Premium 64 shit, an AMD E450 dual-core processor. Ooh, dual-core! Wow! This is high-end shit! Right. AMD Radeon HD 6300 graphics, 1 terabyte hard drive, 4 gig DDR3 memory, DVD Super Multi-Drive, which it's a DVD burner, multi-in-one media card reader, ClearFi and HDMI, whatever the fuck that means, I don't know. So that's that. So in the box, we have a perfectly preserved example. There is no dust really to speak of. It's not even worth blowing out. There are no blown caps or any other anomaly with the system whatsoever. It's got a PCIe X1 and X16. Is that? No, that's a connector. There's a CMOS battery up in there. I don't know if you can see that kind, but it's there. It's probably dead by now. KTS brand, I think. So that's probably dead. The board says Acer Incorporated. The processor is not socketed. It is soldered to the board, so there is no upgrade possible. The 2 sticks of DDR3 RAM, I don't know if I have any more. I wouldn't really bother upgrading it. And this has got all kinds of fancy, like, SATA drives. It's a SATA DVD burner and a SATA hard drive, 3.5 inch, below that. And that is what I remember. We can pop the front cover, I think, pretty easily by popping these clips. Yeah. And then it, like, breaks off or something. There. Yeah, there's like no dust, nothing. It's like practically perfectly preserved. Where that connector goes, probably under the drive. For all the front panel BS. The card reader and everything is built in down here. So that is pretty much it for the hardware portion of this, which is really where I like to be. That's it for that. There's like nothing else to speak of. I am not putting the cover back on now. What I will do is just put the screws lightly in by hand so they don't get lost, because they are black screws to match the case. Like, it really fucking makes a difference, you know. But it's the, you know, it's factory, so we want to leave that. They looped the SATA cable for the optical drive up in there for whatever reason. I don't know. And if I am not mistaken, this was a, how do we say, a warranty scam that I pulled. Okay, so I think, and I'm not certain, I think, oh, there actually is dust on the bottom of the power supply, but it's minimal. So I went to a coworker of mine in the shop at Tiny Middle, and I said, hey, listen, I bought this Acer piece of crap, and the warranty is almost up on it. So because it's under warranty, I want a new hard drive. Can you do this order for me? Because if I did the order on my own system, might raise a few red flags. But if I brought my system in to be serviced, that is perfectly legitimate. I am a customer at that point, and I'm entitled to everything that a customer would be entitled to, which is basically nothing. So I think I bought the extended warranty on this thing because it was $200. The warranty was like $20 something. I don't remember. And this has a 1 terabyte drive. Yeah. So I gave it to the coworker and I said, yeah, put this in, and in the order put down that it needs a 2 terabyte drive because we're out of 1 terabyte drives. Something like that. I don't remember. At the time that was the case. We were like out of 1 terabyte drives or something, so we had to use the next biggest drive. It was an odd thing, but it was just that time of, maybe it was after the flooding in Taiwan or the Philippines or wherever the fuck they made the hard drives and shit. So there was very low stock, and they were hard to get, and they were high priced and that. So it came in just before totaling out the system under the warranty with a 2 terabyte drive, or maybe it actually was over the 85% where they would total it, but because we did not have 1 terabyte drives in stock and just couldn't get them, they approved it for that or something. I don't remember exactly the details, but long and short of the story, I got a 2 terabyte hard drive for free out of this. And I happen to have another system sitting behind the camera that I believe has that 2 terabyte drive along with one that I actually purchased because that machine came to me without a hard drive, and it supports RAID on board. So I thought maybe I'd set up a RAID 1 for redundancy. RAID 0 would be a stripe for faster. There was no such thing as SSDs at the time, so get off my case. So I don't know, but I think it's high time we see if this thing wants to power up. I need to shut the camera down for a bit. I gotta go hunt down a power cable because I don't have that kind. I used to keep 2 over by the freezer there where I used to do these repairs, but that's got all kinds of shit on it now. And those cables just vanished. I got one, and I don't know where the other one is, so I gotta go scrounge around to find one. And we'll get a monitor, and I got a keyboard that might be PS2, maybe. I think it is. So hopefully it'll work, and we'll see if it boots up even.